Hey everybody, it's Wednesday. It's a mic talk. You're at Song and Sword. This is the place where we proclaim Jesus with a song of grace and a sword of truth. I hope you guys are well today. How you doing? Doing all right? Another crazy, good, busy week. Last night I met with our pastoral leadership team and talking about two things. The 8th of September, when we're going to have an open house at our new place on Lincoln Street, 401 Lincoln. The easiest way to tell you is it's the corner of Washington Street and Lincoln. And we're having an open house from 2 to 4, all the inflatables for the kids and grilling out and a tour of the place. We're starting to make some progress. People are over there working a little bit. And if you're on a team that you signed up for, stay tuned. Because tonight I'm meeting with the project committee, prioritize, name some projects, and hopefully dozens of you will be in there soon. We're scraping, getting ready for some paint, trying to see what we need to paint professionally and all that stuff. So be praying for us. Pray for us every day at 149. This is my reminder. We have these little things that say pray at 149. Pray with us. Pray for wisdom. Pray for strength for your pastor, please, and peace as we just go through all these things. And I'm praying for you. So text prayer to that number on the screen. I'd love to pray for you, lift you up before the Lord. God's blessing be on you guys today. We're continuing to talk about this idea of generous habits, forming a holy habit of generosity, or like we said on Sunday, and I really love the term, we are habitual givers. That's what I would like to become in my lifetime. I'm going to go today to Acts chapter 23. Chapter 24, verses 17 or 18. That's in your booklets. That's if you're following along the daily devotions through this hilarious generosity study. The Apostle Paul was a giver. And again, he was a missionary, so he traveled all over the world, and people gave him money to support him and to do that ministry. But now we find in verse 25, he's retelling the story of how he came under the custody of the Roman officials, what happened in Jerusalem, and how he was arrested. He was doing nothing, which he'll say in these two verses. But I just want to point out that Paul was just in one way a regular Jew who had become a Christian, which was the fulfillment of the Jewish law. And he just came to Jerusalem to be a giver. I'm going to start in verse 16, actually. Acts 24:16. So I always take pains to have a clear conscience toward both God and man. Now, after several years, I came to bring alms to my nation and to present offerings. While I was doing this, they found me purified in the temple without any crowd or any tumult. The Apostle Paul had come to Jerusalem after being gone for several years. If you remember, he was on a missions trip. He was starting churches in what is now modern-day Turkey, Galatia, and Asia. And then modern-day Greece. It was Greece back then, up in the northern part in Thessalonica and Philippi, so what would be called Macedonia, and then south into Corinth, the place, the region of Achaia, Athens and that. And Paul's in this mission. He's stayed several times. He stayed in Ephesus for almost 2 years. He stayed in Corinth for a year and a half. And he's writing letters to churches. And he's taking up the offering that we talked about on Sunday, this collection of the saints. But I want to point out that when he comes back to Jerusalem, he brings the alms to my nation. In other words, he was bringing he was bringing money into Jerusalem to help his people, to help the people of God. We talked about that Sunday. If you haven't seen that sermon, go check it out. But I want to point this out. He was bringing alms to his nation and to present offerings. What offerings was the Apostle Paul bringing? Well, the Apostle Paul was in the habit of going to the temple and bringing offerings. One of the offerings he brought was, we know from the story earlier in Acts, he brought a votive offering. A votive offering is a vow. You make a vow to God, God, if you will do this, then I will give you these offerings. Or I will give you these offerings and you bless me thus and thus, right? It's one of the 6 offerings we mentioned on Sunday that you could bring before the Lord. The point is not even the offering. The point is not the vow. We know in this instance, Paul and 4 other guys shaved their heads as a part of the vow to show that they had fulfilled a vow. That's not the point. The point is that even the Apostle Paul had a habit of going to the house of the Lord and giving to the house of the Lord. And even in the first century, when Jesus had fulfilled the law, and he was now the one that Paul was following, Paul still found it necessary to do two things: to habitually give to the poor, people that are in need, which he did to the church at Jerusalem, and to give to the house of the Lord as an act of worship. The Apostle Paul, we find him here in his defense saying, I was just worshiping. I want to keep my conscience clear before God and man. And part of that is being generous. And so may we be like that today. I hope that you're working. Our small group worked through this on Monday night a couple nights ago. And we're committed to taking small steps, committing to say, I will give this amount regularly as I take personal inventory of what God is doing. I hope that you'll take that to heart. And I hope that you'll give in a way of worship like the Apostle Paul did. And that begins today with everything you have to all the people around you. God bless you guys. See you soon.